Hey there, it is Mark for the Gun Guy channel, and today we are talking about a gun I used to hate, but now kind of like. It's a bit like how I felt about Keanu Reeves from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure to John Wick. And no, this gun is not in John Wick, by the way, but maybe it should be. It is the Beretta Tomcat 3032, and we're going to take a closer look at it right after this.
Excellent!
Hey, it's Mark again, and a while back I did a video on guns I regretted buying, and yeah, this gun was one of them. But when we went to the range to film and get some footage, something changed and I kind of started to like it. And I've been wondering why ever since. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a brief history of the Beretta Tomcat, the tip-up barrel system, all the models and specs and quirks of the Tomcat, and of course we'll shoot it and give you some final thoughts and postulate why I changed my mind. But before we get into all that, if you've been liking our channel, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, drop a comment. It's a totally free way to support the channel, and it really does help us to keep bringing you more content. And it lets you know when we do actually put out new content. As always, I've added some chapter markers in the video so you can skip to the part that interests you the most, or if nothing interests you, you can just hit next and go on to the next YouTube video. But if not, let's get into the history of the Beretta Tomcat. So when Beretta introduced the Tomcat 3032 in the late 1990s, it wasn't breaking any new ballistic ground, but it was reviving and refining a classic idea. A discreet, pocketable pistol chambered in a manageable, if modest, caliber being the 32 ACP. And it was doing this based on one of its already existing popular models, the Bobcat, which is chambered in 22 long rifle. Now, if I confuse the Bobcat with the Tomcat, because the Tomcat is 32 ACP and the Bobcat is 22 long rifle, it's because Bobcats are usually bigger than Tomcats, so in my head, it doesn't make any sense. The 32 ACP, also known as the 7.65 Browning cartridge, dates back to 1899. And it was the brainchild of legendary firearms designer John Moses Browning. It was created to pair with the FN Model 1900, one of the first truly modern semi-automatic pistols. For much of the early 20th century, the 32 ACP was a popular service round in European police and military pistols, including the Walther PP series, which, if you were curious, stands for Police Pistol. And the Czech VZ50, also known as the CZ50, which is a double-action semi-automatic pistol from Czechoslovakia, and it was produced from around the 1940s to 1970. Despite its age, the 32 ACP is still around and still fills a niche. It offers a low recoil, at least in a full-size gun, decent penetration for its size, and high magazine capacity, again, in a full-size gun. Now, in the US, it's largely been eclipsed by the 9mm and even the 380 ACP, but it remains a viable option for shooters with limited hand strength and those seeking ultra-compact carry options, like the Beretta Tomcat. Now, Beretta has been refining the concept of the pocket pistol for over a century, with its roots stretching back to the model 1915 and post-war designs like the Beretta 950 Jetfire. The Beretta Model 950 Jetfire was introduced in 1952, and it was produced all the way through 2003. It was chambered in 25 ACP and is generally credited as the first widely available semi-automatic pistol with a tip-up barrel, which is kind of super cool.
Excellent!
This model directly inspired the later Beretta Bobcat 21A, and the Bobcat was introduced in 1984. The Bobcat, chambered in 22 long rifle and 25 ACP, reintroduced the tip-up barrel pocket pistol to the Beretta lineup. Rather than manually racking a slide, a challenge for some people with arthritis or limited grip strength, or people who are just too lazy to rack it, the user could simply push a lever and pop up the barrel to load or clear a round directly. This meant no slide manipulation was needed to chamber the round, and the gun could be safely unloaded without working the slide. Building on the Bobcat success, Beretta released the Tomcat 3032 in 1996, scaling up the platform to handle the 32 ACP cartridge. The frame was beefed up with stronger materials, and the barrel, though it's still just 2.4 inches, was overbuilt to handle the higher chamber pressures. The Tomcat retained the tip-up barrel, double-action, single-action trigger, and manual thumb safety, but now offered a more potent round for defensive use, still in a gun barely large enough to fit in a working man's wallet. For example, the Beretta 86, chambered in 380 ACP, was introduced in 1986. See how that works? And it had a relatively short run compared to the Tomcat and the Bobcat, being manufactured from 1986 to 1996. Of some importance in the evolution of the Tomcat is 2001. And that is because the gun underwent a modification or redesign at that point. Early models, meaning pre-2001, were sometimes prone to cracking when used with high-pressure 32 ACP loads. Beretta addressed this with stronger slides in later models and beefing up the gun. Beretta also issued a warning that early production Tomcats, pre-2001, should not be used with high-pressure ammunition like buffalo bore or certain European overpressure loads. And while newer models have been reinforced, the concern still lingers, and there's also a warning that you should comply with certain pressure restrictions on the ammo you use. And to that extent, actually, they even put a card in the box when you get your new gun. And speaking of boxes and what's in the gun, let's take a look at what we got in the box, but it's not really what we got in the box because I've had this gun for so long. The case that sometimes comes with this is missing. But I still have the box and some of the paperwork, so we're going to look at that right now. So, like I said, this is not truly an unboxing, and to drive that point home, the gun's already out of the box. It is clear, by the way. Let's clear this. We can do this super easy with this gun. It's tipped up and nothing in the chamber. So there we go. So, as I was saying, when you get this gun, and I do believe there was a really nice little carrying case in this. You get the manual and some other things, but you get this notice. And this refers to the pressure of the loads that you want to put in. And since we have it out here, the 3032 Tomcat is a small, lightweight pistol made for self-defense. Ammunition currently available suited for the Tomcat include 60 grain Winchester silver tip, 60 grain Speer gold dot, 65 grain Federal Premium Hydroshock, and a number of lower velocity 71 grain rounds, all of which have a muzzle energy not greater than 130 foot-pounds. Firing the pistol with higher energy ammunition will increase wear and tear. If you have any questions concerning whether or not the round you wish to fire exceeds those recommended energy levels, consult your firearms dealer, the current edition of the Gun Digest, or contact the ammunition manufacturer. On almost every box of ammunition that I've seen, they will have the foot-pounds listed, so you can look at that, and you'll also know how many grains the bullet is. So, that being said, let's make the box go away. Poof. And take a look at the gun that we have in front of us. Now, this is the Enox version of the gun. And there are a whole lot of different versions of this gun, and let's list them right now. So this is the Enox model. However, the other models that are available in the Beretta 3032 Tomcat are the standard blacked out Tomcat, which was originally introduced in 1996. It features classic brushed steel slide, black alloy frame, the tip-up barrel, double action, single action trigger, manual safety, and has a capacity of 7+1. This was built on the Bobcat design, and it was simply scaled up. Now there's also the Tomcat Enox. Again, that's the one that we're looking at. This was released not long after the original blackout version. There was also for a while the Tomcat Titanium, which was produced from 2001 to 2009. It replaced the aluminum frame with titanium to significantly reduce the weight and improve corrosion resistance and increase the price. Cha-ching! There was also the Tomcat Alleycat, which had night sights, and that is no longer available. That was released from sometime in the mid-2000s to the late 2000s. It was equipped with tritium night sights for low light visibility, and it was referred to simply as the Alleycat variant. There is also the Tomcat Covert, which is currently available and was originally released around 2020. It features a threaded barrel for suppressor use. It has a blued slide and frame maintaining the compact tip-up design. There are also then some limited and collector finishes, such as the Flat Dark Earth, the Kale Slushy, the Ghostbuster, and the Silver Black Gorilla. Now, these don't appear to introduce any different functionalities or functional changes and are mostly aesthetic variations. Also, the line is now expanded into the 30X, which definitely has some functional differences, and we're expecting one of those shortly, and we'll do a whole review on just that model and how it compares to the 3032. This is the Enox version, and it has a barrel length of 2.4 inches. The overall length on this gun is 4.92 inches. The weight unloaded is supposed to come in at 14.5 ounces. And let's just check that real quick. 15.8 ounces, but I am guessing that's without the magazine. And sure enough, without the magazine, it comes right in at 14.5 ounces. The caliber on this gun is 32 ACP. And this gun is a double action, single action, meaning that when you pull it, you have the option of the first very long pull like a revolver, which will cock it. And after that, it will be in single action mode for the rest of the magazine. The overall height on this gun is 3.7 inches. The overall width on the gun is 1.1 inches, and this magazine holds 7+1 in the really cool pop-up chamber. So you have a capacity of 8 in total for this. So the way that you actually rack this gun, so to speak, there are two ways. You could do it the very traditional way and operate a slide, and that would put one in the chamber, but this would then be back. And you do have a manual safety on this gun, right? However, you would not want to carry it like this because, and we're going to open this for you, there is no transfer bar safety. So if anything hits this, you will see, trying to do this for the camera, not sure if it's going to work or not, but the firing pin will protrude, and that would discharge around negligently. So when you carry this, you don't want to carry it in the old, cocked and locked fashion, like a 1911. You want the hammer forward, even though there is a half cock, so to speak, on this gun. You wouldn't carry it in that. And how, if the hammer is back, do you safely decock this gun? Because, again, it doesn't have a decocker. What you would do is open the barrel. Now there's nothing in front of the firing pin. You could then release the hammer, put that down, and now it is in a double action mode again, right? And that's a very safe way to carry this gun. If you really wanted to go a bit overkill on it, you could also have the safety on, and now it won't go no matter what, right? So you could carry it like a revolver, or you could employ the safety and then have to disengage the safety when you wanted to use the trigger. And speaking of the trigger, as long as we're here, let's see what the trigger pull is. Honestly, the double action on this does not seem bad. So let's take a peek and see what we're going to get. £7, 8.7 ounces. And that honestly seems about right. Now, Another way that you can do this as far as cocking it, obviously every time that you close that, it turns it into the double action. I should say it preps the double action. 8 pounds, 2.7 ounces. And £7, 0.9 ounces. So the double action is not terrible, honestly. And in regard to that, it really does feel like a relatively smooth double action. It doesn't necessarily catch. Obviously, it's it's not a Smith or a Colt revolver, but it's certainly not a bad double action. In regard to the single action trigger, £2, 8.9 ounces. £3, 3.1 ounces. £1, 15.6 ounces. So, as you'd expect from a semi, a relatively nice, crisp single action. And let's take a look at that real quick too. Goes right to the wall. Very little creep with this gun, and a pretty nice crisp break, right? Okay. So moving down on the features of this gun, the sights are probably the worst feature of this gun. And as you can see, they're basically just bumps. So the 30X does improve on this, or at least that's my understanding. But the sights are a fixed front sight, and you can drift the rear sight if you wanted. In regard to the hammer itself, there are some serrations. Despite being a really tiny hammer, it is not hard to cock it. So the other thing that you could do if you wanted is when you are carrying it in a double action mode, much like a revolver, you could turn it into single action for your first shot or for more precise shots. By the way, it just occurred to me after I am doing all this dry firing, the manual, which came in the box, suggests that dry firing is not the best thing for this particular gun. So you probably want to put a spent casing in. However, since we barely could find 32s to shoot, I certainly can't find them to put a spent casing in this right now. But we're going to risk it. As I said, the safety is not a decocker, and it is only on the one side. So lefties, you are kind of left out in the cold on this. The tip-up barrel is with this lever right here. The magazine release is right there, and obviously you have to change your grip. So quick changes on this particular gun would be a challenge. Now, there is no magazine disconnect, which is a nice thing. The ergonomics on the gun, honestly, for a tiny gun, are not bad. The checkering and the serrations on the back give you a pretty nice grip. And if you had to actually operate the slide, the serrations are pretty good, easy to get a grip on. So the slide, by the way, does not have a slide release, and it will not hold open when the last cartridge is spent. So that's just something to be aware of. In regard to the grip, I can get 2 fingers on pretty comfortably. Now, one of the possible problems with this gun is slide bite. And you can see if you get a really high grip on this, you're not going to be having a great day, because when that slide comes back, it's going to cut you, right? So you may want to modify your grip with this particular gun. What I do is I kind of do a modification on a revolver grip. And I'll still put my front thumb forward behind it, but I will bring my thumb over here. And if you can see, Now my hand is well below the slide. I still have a really nice firm grip on this, and for me at least, it was working pretty well. So that's how I grip it. But again, with these small pistols, you have to kind of play around with it a little bit and discover which grip works best for you. In regard to breaking this gun down, it is a super easy field strip, which is kind of neat. So we're going to take the magazine out. You tip up the barrel, right? And I put the hammer back. And then honestly, all you do is pop and pull it forward. And the gun is now ready to be cleaned. So I think that's kind of cool. The other thing that I think is kind of cool, you'll notice there is absolutely no spring anywhere around here, right? And these two little devices are actually what act as the recoil spring on this. And I will definitely need to clean this thing because it looks a little bit dirty. But anyhow, and then putting it back together, pretty easy, even though I'll probably screw that up because we're filming it. You just slide it back into place, push it down like a Lego, and bring the barrel back down, and you are good to go. So that is really it. So now that we know how to take the gun apart, put it back together, let's take a quick look at how we shot the 10 rounds of .32 ammo that we could actually use on the range day. So final thoughts. I really did like shooting this gun much more now than I did 5 or 6 years ago when I thought it was one of the most unpleasant guns ever to shoot. And I think there are a couple of reasons why I thought that at the time and now why I enjoy shooting it. Probably the first reason is I had never shot the PPK at that time, which literally is one of the most unpleasant guns I've ever shot. So number two, I just didn't have as much experience with guns at that point, and shooting a pocket pistol or micro pistol is just much more challenging than shooting a full-size pistol. And at that time, I was principally shooting full-size pistols to work on my handling skills. And a lot of that was spent with the 92 FS, which has much better sights and way better recoil. So you add those two things together and then you pick up this pocket pistol, and the sights and the recoil are perceived to be much worse. Even now, I find that when I'm shooting a lot of guns at the range back to back to back for filming, if I start with a full size and then shoot the micro seems like it has a lot worse recoil. So now I actually do the opposite. I'll start with the smallest gun that we're shooting for that day and work my way up to the full size. And then I think I get a better true idea of what the recoil is on the pocket pistol or Micro 9. That being said, I do think that it's a great pocket pistol. And honestly, in fact, when I was getting ready to do the review, I like to have the gun with me while I'm typing out the script and just jotting down my notes. And I honestly forgot I had it in my pocket. It's that easy to carry. So I think that the Tomcat 3032 definitely has a purpose in this world. Very manageable to shoot, even though I didn't think so at the time. and I'm not sure if it's a great gun for beginners because of that. They may have the same reaction that I did to the recoil and the sights. But for shooters with a little bit of experience, I think that it's a really solid pocket pistol choice. How does this relate to the Beretta 30X? Well, not quite sure yet. I'm really excited about getting the 30X, mostly because of the sights. And I think that the 30X is going to correct a lot of the issues that most people have with the 30-32. And we're going to do a full review on that gun in a few weeks when we get it. Also, the frame, I think, is beefed up a little bit, so I'm kind of curious as how the perceived recoil will feel. And it has a new flat trigger, so I'm kind of curious how that's going to play when we're shooting it. In regard to pricing on the two variants between the 30-32 and the 30X, you can find the 30-32 for less, but it's closer than you might think. So when I went online, I could find the 30-32. The cheapest one was $339.99, and that was for a flat dark earth version with a threaded barrel. And then the cheapest version that I could find of the 30X was the basic model called In Case of Emergency. And that, by the way, is the one that we're getting. And that was $379.99. And actually, some of the 30-32s, even though they're an older model, are more expensive than the 30Xs. So my advice is to shoot them both side by side or back to back and see what you like, or you could wait for our video and mindlessly do exactly what I say. Just kidding, don't do that. Do your own research, take in as much information from as many reviewers as you can find and articles, shoot the guns if possible, and make a decision that is right for you, where you are at and where your skill level is at. Now, let me know your thoughts on the Beretta 30-32. Have you shot it? Do you carry one? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you somewhere where I was, where you just don't know, and then you have a love-hate relationship that switches off daily? How do you think it compares to the 30X if you've shot both? Please drop a comment. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe. See you next time on the Gun Guy channel.
Excellent!